Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. A coroner's jury hears a second day of testimony into last November's fatal standoff at the Billings Big Bear store.
Officers involved in that standoff with a Crow Agency man share new details about the ordeal.
Now, the inquest is expected to wrap up sometime tomorrow when the jury will decide if the officers involved in the shooting were justified.
Q2 Samantha Harrelson reports now on today's developments.
The officers on the stand Wednesday painted a picture of a tense standoff with a non-compliant suspect. They describe how throughout the morning their concerns grew as they felt the suspect, Frank Half Jr., was baiting them and preparing for some sort of ambush. As Half's family members watched on, each of the officers described how Half opened up an emergency exit door at the front of the building, putting his hands out where officers could see them. But while officers began to prepare for an arrest, he pulled out a gun.
That to me just added and it increased what my initial thoughts were in the evening is that he's trying to bait us into something.
Shots were fired at the door to force him back inside the building. Following that, Sergeant Brandon Woolley spoke emotionally about the conversation he had with Chief Rich St. John about sending officers inside.
We were only going to take guys who were willing to get hurt. I knew their families, and it was a kind of a bad situation for everybody. I called my wife so I could clear my head and get focused because I told her we're getting ready to go do something that we normally wouldn't do, and guys are going to get hurt today.
Before any officers were sent in, Half was observed in tactical gear with a rifle heading towards the front entrance of the building. Officers say they believe Half was moving behind two tents positioned at the front entrance. Officer Darren Hayter told the jury he saw a flash from inside the tent, which he believed was Half firing out towards officers. The officers fired back, eventually killing Half. All officers said he had opportunities for a different outcome.
He would have ended up in jail for a few charges, essentially. He wouldn't have had to have engaged our police officers that day the way they did and still be here.
Officer Hayter, do you feel that you had any other choice that day?
Absolutely not.
In Billings, Samantha Harrelson, MTN News.
And as Sammy said, the inquest was initially expected to wrap up this evening, but due to the length of testimony and evidence involved, it will continue tomorrow.
Elsewhere, a Bighorn County man charged with killing his adopted 4-year-old daughter made his first court appearance today.
34-year-old Bridger Boyd appeared on charges of deliberate homicide and aggravated assault. Court records state Boyd and his wife Jennifer brought the unresponsive 4-year-old girl to Bighorn County Hospital on Monday with severe bruising. Initially, Boyd said the girl had fallen out of bed. Due to the severity of the girl's injuries, hospital staff contacted the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office to investigate. The girl was then brought to St. Vincent Healthcare here in Billings, where she died Monday evening.
When questioned about her daughter's injuries, Jennifer Boyd told authorities her husband had slammed the girl's head into a wall and then threw her on the floor after the little girl had argued with her mother during dinner. Later, under further questioning, Bridger Boyd told investigators he had caused the girl's injuries, including bruising on her legs. Tonight, Boyd remains jailed on a $1 million bond. He's expected to appear in Bighorn County for his arraignment.
Park County authorities are now investigating a fatal crash where a vehicle was found in the Boulder River south of Big Timber. 58-year-old Sheryl Adams of Park County died in the June 15th accident. Adams' vehicle was found in the river by campers. The Montana Highway Patrol is working with Park County to investigate the cause and circumstances surrounding this incident.
Residents in Augusta, Montana say the water actually has come down significantly since yesterday, but some areas of town remain flooded out.
No water can still be seen on parts of Main Street, but at least it's no longer flowing down the middle of the road. According to Lewis and Clark County Disaster and Emergency Services, several businesses remain closed due to this flooding.
South of Main Street, floodwater continues to flow through parts of the city, and the town remains isolated by road closures on both sides of town. One local resident says she had to take steps this morning to make sure that she and her husband were not trapped in their home.
I just got scared at my own home. I was worried that we would get surrounded and then we wouldn't be able to get out. I was worried about where to park the car, so we moved our cars over to the other street that was dry. And we got our pets out, the cats. We left the cats, and I was scared.
Now, Herring, who manages the local library there in Augusta, has opened the building to make sure people can access the internet or use the restroom.
And the Salvation Army has now set up a shelter in nearby Choteau for those who have been forced out of their homes.
Well, for the latest on high waters across our region and state, we continue our coverage tonight with Q2 Connor Pregitzer. Connor.
Well, thank you, Jeanelle. And yes, there is a lot of water across the state, even a little bit closer to home. This video was sent to us this morning by Tracy Glenn. This is on Pryor Road, just south of Billings here. So thank you, Tracy, for this video, taking a look after yesterday's heavy rainfall. There's just a lot of excess water, really, across much of the state. Now, let's talk a little bit more about that rainfall. It was a very wet weekend and a little Monday extra rain tacked on there for good measure. Taking a look at some of the numbers that NWS here has combined for us to take a look at. This was the real heavy spot here, 5.75 inches just north of Big Timber, and up here north of Roundup over 3 inches. That's the Musselshell River Basin, where there have already been a lot of flooding concerns, and those are going to persist as we move throughout the later portions of this week. Again, that rainfall not limited to that region. Down near Red Lodge, 2.6 inches. Here in Billings, a lot of varied reports, as is the case with this type of heavy rain. It's regional, depending on where the deepest cells from the storms roll over, but a lot of reports north of 2 inches for us here in Billings. That's 2.5. Now, talking about those concerns along the Musselshell, places like Harlowton, Shawmut, and Lavina have been in flood conditions for much of the spring. One place that avoided those conditions is Roundup. It appears that's going to change as we move towards Friday with major flooding forecast. That river's supposed to crest at 11.5 feet. For more on the broader outlook for our flooding scenario, we're going to send it over to Bob.
Thank you very much, Connor. Well, I tell you what, let me show you what's happening out there. We are going to go into, basically, this is our big, what we call it, our threat board. And you'll notice, all of it is just all of nothing but flooding issues. Now, let me show you here this. We got a flood watch now across the southwest corner of the state, moving up towards Lewistown. That's for a fresh batch of rain starting to move in. We're going to see some heavy showers and thunderstorms. That area in pink in Cascade County, that's a civil emergency. What we're going to see here, basically, is the Missouri and Sun Rivers are forecast to go into the city limits of Great Falls. A lot of flooding in that area as well. Plus, from Teton all the way down through Lewis and Clark County, we're looking at a lot of flooding in that area. Still continues to be a problem. Now, the Clark Fork River at Drummond, that's now out of its banks as well. And finally, one other one we're going to talk about. We already told you about the Musselshell River, but over the Yellowstone River at Miles City, that is forecast to get above flood stage or right to it the next day or so, probably right on through Thursday, probably right at flood stage at 13 feet. We'll have the rest of your forecast and also about how much rain we are close to getting as far as being our average annual rainfall. We'll chat about that in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, Symphony in the Park is going to look a lot different this year. In fact, due to recent rainy weather, the performance will pop over from Pioneer Park to Amon Park in South Billings. City Park officials made the change for the June 24th event, citing soggy ground at Pioneer Park. Now, the ground just not able to sustain that heavy equipment needed. If you purchase reserved parking or wristbands for shade tent seating, those will still be honored. The free concert is Sunday, June 24th, 2018. Festivities run from 4 to 9 p.m., including food trucks and fun events. And of course, Jay Cohn is going to be there with a cast of Q2 employees. So you can head to ktvq.com and click on this story to learn more about the 46th annual free family-friendly Symphony in the Park.
Also, we need to tell you that candy no longer will be allowed to be handed out at the 4th of July parade in Laurel. City officials there say it's becoming increasingly difficult to obtain insurance for the event due to liability and safety issues. In the past, there have been issues with parade goers moving further and further into the street to retrieve that candy, and that causes the floats to slow down, causing big gaps in the parade. The Laurel Chamber asking parents now to keep their children out of the streets so everyone can enjoy the parade.
Coming up on tonight's 5:30 News, learn how a lost dog survived 44 days in Yellowstone National Park on his own. The happy ending next.
And in sports tonight, Scott shows us how two of Montana's all-time great wrestlers are helping turn around Iowa State's Big 12 program.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire and sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news.